Anna sat quietly on the old wooden chair in the small garden behind her house, her eyes fixed on the book in her hands, though her mind was wandering elsewhere. These days, the 12-year-old girl felt like everything around her was changing too quickly, so quickly that she couldn't keep up. Since her mother passed away 2 years ago, life for Anna and her father, Michael, had become much quieter. They lived in a small house in the suburbs, a place that was once filled with laughter and warm family meals. But now, everything seemed like a distant memory. Michael, a kind and devoted man, had done his best to make up for the loss his daughter had suffered. He worked hard, spent weekends taking Anna to the park, and always tried to keep a smile on his face, even though Anna could sense the weight of his grief. She knew her father was lonely. She could see it in his eyes whenever he looked at the photo of her mother on his desk, or when he sat silently on the sofa late at night. Then one day, Michael told Anna that he had met someone special. "Clara," he said with a smile Anna hadn't seen in a long time. "I met her through a group of friends online. She's very kind, and I think you'll like her." Anna didn't say much, just nodded slightly. She didn't want to upset her father, but deep down, she felt a strange unease, a sense of discomfort she couldn't quite explain. A few weeks later, Clara arrived. She was a beautiful woman with long brown hair and a radiant smile. Clara seemed very friendly, always trying to bond with Anna by bringing her small gifts and telling funny stories. "Anna, I heard from your dad that you love reading. I brought you this book. I hope you'll enjoy it," Clara said, handing Anna a glossy covered novel. Anna smiled and thanked her, but the uneasy feeling in her heart remained. Clara seemed almost too perfect to be true. She cooked delicious meals, helped Michael tidy up the house, and always showed interest in Anna. But the more time Anna spent around Clara, the more she felt there was something mysterious about this woman. Sometimes Anna would catch Clara talking on the phone with someone, her voice soft but tense. Once, Anna even noticed a fleeting coldness in Clara's expression when she thought no one was watching. These small details kept gnawing at Anna's mind. One evening, when Michael announced that he and Clara were planning to get married, Anna felt as though a heavy weight had settled on her chest. "What do you think, Anna?" "I want you to accept Clara as part of our family," Michael said, his eyes full of hope. Anna didn't want to disappoint her father, but she couldn't shake the feeling that Clara wasn't who she appeared to be. From that moment on, Anna decided she had to uncover the truth, even if it meant facing things she didn't want to know. Anna had always been an observant child. She noticed the little things that others often overlooked, like the way someone's tone of voice changed when they were nervous, or how their eyes darted around when they were hiding something. It was a skill she had developed over the years, especially after her mother passed away. She had learned to read her father's emotions, to sense when he was sad, even if he tried to hide it. And now, that same instinct was telling her that something about Clara wasn't right. At first, Anna tried to ignore the feeling. She told herself that she was just being overly cautious, that maybe she was still adjusting to the idea of someone new entering their lives. Clara seemed so kind and caring, always smiling and going out of her way to make Anna feel comfortable. But the more time Anna spent around her, the more she noticed things that didn't quite add up. It started with the phone calls. Clara always seemed to be on her phone, but not in the way most people were. She wasn't scrolling through social media or chatting casually with friends. Instead, she would step out of the room whenever her phone rang, lowering her voice to a near whisper. Sometimes she would glance over her shoulder before answering, as if she wanted to make sure no one was watching. Anna found this odd, but she didn't think too much of it at first. After all, adults had private conversations all the time, right? But then there was the night Anna overheard something she wasn't supposed to. It was late, and Anna had woken up thirsty. She tiptoed downstairs to get a glass of water, careful not to make any noise. As she passed the living room, she noticed a faint light coming from the corner. Clara was sitting on the couch, her phone pressed to her ear. She was speaking in a hushed tone, but the tension in her voice was unmistakable. Anna froze, her curiosity getting the better of her. She crouched behind the staircase, straining to hear what Clara was saying. "It's all going according to plan," Clara whispered. "He trusts me completely. The wedding is just a formality at this point." Anna's heart skipped a beat. Who was Clara talking about? Was she referring to her father? There was a pause as the person on the other end of the line responded. Clara nodded, even though they couldn't see her. "Yes, the inheritance will be substantial. Once everything is finalized, we'll have access to all of it." Anna's stomach churned. Inheritance? What was Clara talking about? Her father wasn't wealthy, at least not in the way Clara seemed to be implying. They lived a modest life, and while Anna knew her father had some savings, it wasn't anything extraordinary. So why was Clara so interested in it? Clara's voice dropped even lower, and Anna had to lean forward to catch the next part. No, he doesn't suspect a thing. He's completely smitten. It's almost too easy. Anna felt a surge of anger and fear. She didn't understand everything Clara was saying, but it was clear that she was talking about her father, and not in a good way. Clara's words were cold and calculating, a far cry from the warm, caring persona she showed during the day. Anna's hands trembled as she clutched the banister. She wanted to burst into the room and confront Clara to demand answers, but something held her back. She knew that if she revealed herself now, Clara would deny everything. Her father would never believe her without proof. He was so happy with Clara, so convinced that she was the perfect partner. Anna couldn't risk ruining things without solid evidence. Clara ended the call a few moments later, slipping her phone into her pocket and heading upstairs. Anna stayed hidden until she was sure Clara was gone, her mind racing with questions. Who had Clara been talking to? What was this plan she mentioned? And most importantly, what did it mean for her father? The next morning, Anna couldn't look at Clara the same way. Every smile, every kind gesture felt fake, like a mask hiding her true intentions. Clara seemed oblivious to Anna's growing suspicion, chatting cheerfully over breakfast and asking about Anna's plans for the day. Anna forced herself to respond politely, but inside she was seething. As the days went on, Anna began to notice more strange behavior. Clara was always careful to keep her phone close, never leaving it unattended. She would disappear for long periods, claiming she needed to run errands or meet with friends, but she never offered any details. And then there were the documents. One afternoon while Clara was out, Anna decided to search her room. She knew it was wrong, but she couldn't shake the feeling that Clara was hiding something. Her heart pounded as she opened the drawer of Clara's nightstand, half expecting to find nothing. But tucked beneath a stack of magazines, she found a folder labeled Michael. Anna's hands shook as she opened the folder. Inside were copies of financial documents, bank statements, insurance policies, and even a draft of a will. Anna's eyes widened as she read through the papers. Clara had been gathering information about her father's finances, and it was clear she had been planning this for a while. But the most chilling discovery was a handwritten note at the bottom of the folder. It read, "Ensure everything is transferred before the wedding. No loose ends." Anna's blood ran cold. This wasn't just a coincidence. Clara was planning something, and it involved her father's money. Anna didn't know the full extent of Clara's scheme, but she knew one thing for certain. She had to stop her. That night, Anna lay awake in bed, her mind racing. She couldn't tell her father. Not yet. He was so in love with Clara, so convinced that she was the answer to their prayers. If Anna accused Clara without proof, her father would think she was just being jealous or overprotective. No, she needed more evidence. She needed to catch Clara in the act. From that moment on, Anna made it her mission to uncover the truth. She started paying closer attention to Clara's every move, watching for any slip-ups or clues. She kept a notebook hidden under her mattress where she wrote down everything she observed, and most importantly, she began to prepare herself for the possibility that confronting Clara might not be enough. If Clara was as dangerous as Anna suspected, she would need a plan to protect her father and herself. The days that followed were some of the most stressful of Anna's life. She felt like she was living in a spy movie, constantly on edge and always looking over her shoulder. But despite the fear and uncertainty, she knew she couldn't give up. Her father's happiness, and possibly his life, depended on her finding the truth. And deep down, Anna knew that the truth was far darker than she could have ever imagined. Anna couldn't shake the unease that had settled in her chest ever since she overheard Clara's phone call. The words inheritance and plan echoed in her mind, and the more she thought about it, the more determined she became to uncover the truth. Clara wasn't who she pretended to be. Anna was sure of it. But proving it was another matter entirely. She knew her father wouldn't believe her without solid evidence. He was too blinded by love, too eager to believe that Clara was the answer to their family's loneliness. So, Anna decided to take matters into her own hands. She would investigate Clara herself. The first step was figuring out where to start. Clara was careful, almost too careful. She never left her phone unattended, and she always seemed to be one step ahead, as if she knew someone might be watching. But Anna had one advantage. Clara underestimated her. To Clara, Anna was just a quiet, bookish 12-year-old, too young to notice anything suspicious. That was her mistake. One afternoon when Clara left the house to run errands, Anna saw her chance. She knew Clara's room was off limits, but this was too important to ignore. Her heart pounded as she crept upstairs, pausing at the door to Clara's room. She hesitated for a moment, her hand hovering over the doorknob. What if Clara came back early? What if she got caught? But then she thought of her father, of how happy he looked when he talked about Clara, and how devastated he would be if something happened to him. That thought gave her the courage to push the door open. Clara's room was immaculate, almost unnaturally so. The bed was perfectly made, the surfaces spotless, and everything was arranged with precision. It didn't feel lived in, and that only made Anna more suspicious. She started with the nightstand, pulling open the drawer and rifling through its contents. There was nothing unusual, just a few books, a notepad, and some pens. Frustrated, Anna moved to the closet. She sifted through Clara's clothes, checking the pockets and feeling for anything hidden. Still, nothing. Just as she was about to give up, Anna noticed a small lockbox tucked away on the top shelf of the closet. Her pulse quickened. This had to be it. She dragged a chair over and climbed up, carefully pulling the box down. It was locked, of course, but Anna had anticipated this. She had seen Clara use a keychain with several small keys, and she knew exactly where Clara kept it, in her purse, which was hanging on the back of a chair in the living room. Anna hurried downstairs, her heart racing. She grabbed the purse and rummaged through it until she found the keychain. She selected the smallest key and ran back upstairs, her hands trembling as she inserted it into the lock. It clicked open, and Anna held her breath as she lifted the lid. Inside the box were several documents, neatly folded and organized. Anna's eyes widened as she began to read. The first document was a life insurance policy in her father's name, with Clara listed as the sole beneficiary. Anna's stomach turned. She remembered her father mentioning that Clara had convinced him to take out the policy, saying it was just in case something happened to him. At the time, it had seemed like a reasonable suggestion, but now Anna saw it for what it was, part of Clara's plan. The next document was even more shocking. It was a marriage certificate, but it wasn't for Clara and her father. It was for Clara and another man, dated just 2 years ago. Anna flipped through the papers and found another certificate, and then another. Clara had been married at least 3 times before, each time to a wealthy man. And then Anna found the obituaries. Each of Clara's previous husbands had died under mysterious circumstances. One in a car accident, another from a sudden heart attack, and the third in what was described as a tragic home accident. The pattern was clear, and it sent a chill down Anna's spine. Clara was a black widow, preying on wealthy men and disposing of them when she got what she wanted. Anna's hands shook as she put the papers back in the box. She felt like she was in a nightmare, but this was all too real. Clara wasn't just a liar, she was dangerous. And now, she had her sights set on Anna's father. Anna knew she couldn't keep this to herself. She needed to tell someone, but who? Her father wouldn't believe her without proof, and she couldn't risk confronting Clara directly. She needed more evidence, something undeniable. She decided to take photos of the documents with her phone, carefully capturing each page. Once she had everything, she locked the box and returned it to the closet, making sure everything was exactly as she had found it. Over the next few days, Anna kept a close eye on Clara, watching for any opportunity to gather more information. She noticed that Clara often left the house in the evenings, always with the same excuse, meeting friends or running errands. But Anna didn't believe her. One night, she decided to follow Clara. She waited until Clara left, then grabbed her bike and trailed her at a safe distance. Clara drove to a small cafe on the edge of town, where she met a man Anna didn't recognize. They sat in a corner booth, talking in hushed tones. Anna couldn't hear what they were saying, but she managed to snap a few photos with her phone before slipping away. When Anna got home, she searched online for the man Clara had met. It didn't take long to find him. His name was Richard, and he had a criminal record for fraud and identity theft. Anna's heart sank. Clara wasn't working alone. She had a partner, and together they were planning something terrible. Anna spent the next few days piecing everything together. She created a timeline of Clara's marriages and the deaths of her previous husbands, noting the similarities in each case. She compiled the photos of the documents and the meeting with Richard, organizing everything into a folder on her computer. She even wrote down her own observations, detailing Clara's suspicious behavior and the things she had overheard. But as much as Anna tried to stay focused, the weight of what she had discovered was overwhelming. She felt like she was carrying a terrible secret, one that could destroy her family. She wanted to tell her father, to warn him before it was too late, but she knew she had to be careful. Clara was smart, and if she suspected that Anna was onto her, she might act faster. One evening, as Anna sat in her room reviewing her notes, she heard a knock at the door. Her father poked his head in, smiling. "Hey, kiddo, everything okay?" Anna forced a smile. "Yeah, just doing some homework." Michael nodded, but his expression softened. "You've been quiet lately. Is something bothering you?" Anna hesitated. She wanted to tell him everything, to beg him to call off the wedding and send Clara away, but she knew she couldn't. Not yet. "I'm fine, Dad. Just tired." Michael smiled and ruffled her hair. "All right, let me know if you need anything." As he left, Anna felt a pang of guilt. She hated keeping secrets from her father, but she knew she was doing it to protect him. She just hoped she could gather enough evidence before it was too late. Clara was dangerous, and Anna was running out of time. Anna had spent days gathering evidence against Clara. She had photos of the fake documents, screenshots of Clara's suspicious financial dealings, and even a timeline of her previous marriages and the mysterious deaths of her former husbands. Every piece of evidence pointed to one undeniable truth. Clara was dangerous, and her father was in serious trouble. But despite all her preparation, Anna felt a knot of anxiety in her stomach as she sat at the kitchen table, waiting for the right moment to talk to her father. Michael was in the living room, humming softly as he flipped through a magazine. He looked so happy, so at peace, and Anna hated the thought of shattering that. But she knew she had no choice. If she didn't act now, it might be too late. "Dad," Anna said, her voice trembling slightly as she walked into the room. Michael looked up, smiling warmly. "Hey, sweetheart, what's up?" Anna hesitated, clutching the folder of evidence she had compiled. "I need to talk to you about Clara." Michael's smile faltered, and he set the magazine down. "What about her?" Anna took a deep breath, trying to steady her nerves. "I don't think she's who she says she is. I've been looking into her, and I found some things that don't add up." Michael frowned, his expression shifting from curiosity to concern. "Anna, what are you talking about?" Anna opened the folder and began laying out the evidence on the coffee table. "Look at this," she said, pointing to the life insurance policy. "She convinced you to sign this, but she's the only beneficiary. And these," she gestured to the marriage certificates and obituaries, "these are records of her previous marriages. All of her husbands were wealthy, and they all died under suspicious circumstances." Michael stared at the papers, his brow furrowing. For a moment, Anna thought she had gotten through to him, but then he shook his head, leaning back in his chair. "Anna," he said, his tone firm but gentle, "this is ridiculous. Clara isn't like that. She's a good person. She loves me, and she's been nothing but kind to you." "But Dad," Anna started, her voice rising in frustration. "No," Michael interrupted, his voice growing sharper. "I don't know where you got all of this, but it's not proof of anything. You're just a kid, Anna. You don't understand how relationships work." Anna felt a surge of anger and desperation. "I'm not making this up. I heard her talking on the phone about a plan to take your money. She's lying to you, Dad. She's dangerous." Michael stood up, his face clouded with frustration. "Enough, Anna. I know this has been hard for you, adjusting to someone new in our lives, but this has to stop. Clara isn't your enemy. She's going to be part of our family, and I need you to accept that." Anna's heart sank. She had expected some resistance, but she hadn't anticipated this. Her father wasn't just dismissing her concerns. He was angry with her. She felt tears prick at the corners of her eyes, but she refused to let them fall. "Dad, please," she said, her voice breaking. "I'm trying to protect you." Michael sighed, running a hand through his hair. "I don't need protecting, Anna. What I need is for you to trust me. Clara makes me happy, and I won't let you ruin that because you're jealous or scared of change." The word jealous hit Anna like a slap in the face. She opened her mouth to argue, but before she could say anything, Clara walked into the room. "What's going on?" Clara asked, her voice sweet and concerned. She glanced at the papers on the table, her eyes narrowing slightly before she turned to Michael. "Is everything okay?" Michael gave her a reassuring smile. "It's fine. Anna and I were just having a little disagreement." Clara walked over and placed a hand on Michael's arm, her expression soft and understanding. "Anna, sweetheart, I know this has been hard for you. I can't imagine how difficult it must be to lose your mom, and then have someone new come into your life. But I promise, I'm not trying to replace her. I just want to be here for you and your dad." Anna stared at Clara, her stomach churning. The woman's voice was so calm, so convincing, that for a moment Anna almost doubted herself. But then she remembered the documents, the phone calls, and the lies. Clara was playing a role, and her father was falling for it. "Don't pretend to care about me," Anna said, her voice cold. "I know what you're doing." Clara's eyes widened, and she took a step back, feigning hurt. "Michael, I don't know what to say. I've tried so hard to connect with her, but she doesn't want to give me a chance." Michael put a comforting arm around Clara's shoulders. "It's not your fault," he said, shooting Anna a disappointed look. "She's just going through a phase. She'll come around." Anna felt a wave of helplessness wash over her. Clara had turned the situation around, making herself look like the victim and painting Anna as the unreasonable, jealous child, and her father was buying it. Over the next few days, things only got worse. Clara began subtly driving a wedge between Anna and her father. She would make small, seemingly innocent comments about Anna's behavior, planting seeds of doubt in Michael's mind. "I think Anna's struggling more than she lets on," Clara said one evening as they sat in the living room. "She seems so angry lately. Maybe she needs to talk to someone, a counselor perhaps." Michael nodded thoughtfully. "You might be right. I'll talk to her about it." Anna overheard the conversation from the hallway, her fists clenching in frustration. Clara was manipulating her father, making him think that Anna was the problem. And the more Clara played the role of the caring, supportive partner, the more distant Michael became. One evening, Anna tried again to talk to her father. She waited until Clara was out of the house, hoping that without her presence, Michael might be more willing to listen. "Dad," she said, sitting down across from him at the kitchen table, "I know you don't believe me, but I need you to look at the evidence again. Please, just give me a chance to explain." Michael sighed, rubbing his temples. "Anna, we've been over this. I don't want to talk about it anymore." "But Dad—" "No," he said firmly, cutting her off. "I've made my decision. Clara and I are getting married, and I need you to accept that. This isn't up for discussion." Anna felt tears welling up in her eyes. "You're making a mistake," she said quietly. "And when you realize it, it might be too late." Michael's expression softened for a moment, but then he shook his head. "I love you, Anna, but you need to let this go." Anna stood up, her hands trembling. She wanted to scream, to shake her father and make him see the truth. But she knew it was no use. Clara had him wrapped around her finger, and nothing Anna said would change that. As she walked back to her room, Anna felt a deep sense of despair. She had tried everything, gathering evidence, pleading with her father, even confronting Clara indirectly, but none of it had worked. Clara was winning, and Anna was running out of time. If she couldn't find a way to stop her, she might lose her father forever. The tension in the house had reached a boiling point. Anna felt like she was living in a nightmare, watching her father fall deeper under Clara's spell while her warnings went ignored. Clara had successfully painted Anna as a jealous, overreacting child, and Michael's patience with her was wearing thin. But Anna refused to give up. She knew Clara was dangerous, and she was determined to stop her, no matter what it took. The opportunity came when Clara suggested a family getaway. "We've all been so stressed lately," Clara said one evening, her voice dripping with sweetness. "I think a little vacation would do us good, just the three of us spending some quality time together." Michael immediately agreed, his face lighting up at the idea. "That sounds perfect," he said, glancing at Anna. "Doesn't that sound nice, sweetheart?" Anna forced a smile, her stomach twisting. She didn't trust Clara's sudden desire for a family trip. It felt too convenient, too calculated, but she knew better than to voice her concerns. Instead, she nodded and said, "Sure, Dad, that sounds great." Inside, Anna's mind was racing. She had to figure out what Clara was planning. The timing of the trip felt suspicious, especially since Clara had been growing increasingly impatient with Anna's presence. Anna couldn't shake the feeling that this vacation wasn't about bonding. It was about getting rid of her father. The destination was a secluded cabin by a lake, a few hours' drive from their home. Clara had booked it, claiming it was the perfect place to relax and unwind. The cabin was picturesque, surrounded by tall trees and overlooking the calm, shimmering water. But to Anna, it felt isolated, like the perfect place for something terrible to happen. Anna wasn't going into this trip unprepared. She had confided in her best friend Lily about everything she had discovered. Lily was the only person who believed her, and together, they had come up with a plan. Lily would stay in touch with Anna throughout the trip, ready to call for help if anything went wrong. Anna also brought her phone fully charged and ready to record anything suspicious. The first day at the cabin was uneventful, almost eerily so. Clara was on her best behavior, cooking dinner and laughing at Michael's jokes. She even tried to engage Anna in conversation, but Anna kept her responses short, watching Clara's every move. That night, as Anna lay in bed, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was about to happen. The next morning, Clara announced that she was going to prepare a special dinner for the family. "It's a surprise," she said with a smile, her eyes glinting. "You two just relax and enjoy the day." Anna's heart sank. This was it. She was sure of it. Clara was going to make her move. While Michael went out to fish by the lake, Anna stayed behind, pretending to read a book in the living room. She kept one eye on Clara, who was bustling around the kitchen. Clara seemed calm, humming softly as she worked, but Anna noticed the way she kept glancing over her shoulder, as if making sure no one was watching. When Clara stepped out of the kitchen to grab something from her bag, Anna seized the moment. She crept into the kitchen, her heart pounding, and began searching for anything out of place. It didn't take long to find it. Tucked behind a row of spices was a small vial filled with a clear liquid. Anna's breath caught in her throat as she picked it up. The label had been scratched off, but she didn't need to be a detective to know what it was. Anna quickly pulled out her phone and took several photos of the vial, making sure to capture every detail. She then placed it back exactly where she had found it and slipped out of the kitchen just as Clara returned. Her hands were shaking, but she forced herself to stay calm. She couldn't let Clara suspect anything. That evening, as they sat down for dinner, Anna's anxiety was at an all-time high. Clara had prepared a beautiful meal, complete with a bottle of wine for her and Michael. Anna watched in horror as Clara poured the wine, her movements smooth and practiced. She knew the poison was in one of the glasses, but she didn't know which one. "Here's to us," Clara said, raising her glass with a smile. "To new beginnings and a bright future." Michael beamed, clinking his glass against hers. Anna's stomach churned as she watched him take a sip. She had to act fast. "Wait," Anna blurted out, her voice shaking. Both Clara and Michael turned to look at her, surprised. "What's wrong, Anna?" Michael asked, his brow furrowing. Anna stood up, her hands clenched into fists. "Don't drink that, Dad. It's poisoned." Michael's face twisted in confusion. "What are you talking about?" Clara's expression shifted, her smile faltering for just a moment before she recovered. "Anna, that's enough. This has gone too far." "No, it hasn't," Anna said, her voice growing stronger. She pulled out her phone and held it up. "I have proof. I saw her put something in the wine, and I found this in the kitchen." She opened the photo of the vial and showed it to her father. Michael stared at the screen, his face pale. "Clara, what is this?" Clara's eyes darted between Anna and Michael, her calm facade beginning to crack. "It's nothing," she said quickly. "She's lying. She's been trying to sabotage us from the beginning." "I'm not lying," Anna shouted. "Check her bag, Dad. I bet you'll find more of it." Michael hesitated, his eyes filled with doubt. Clara reached out to touch his arm, her voice soft and pleading. "Michael, please. You know me. You know I would never hurt you." But something in Michael's expression shifted. He stood up, his jaw tightening. "Clara, let me see your bag." Clara froze, her eyes narrowing. For a moment, Anna thought she might refuse, but then Clara smiled, a cold, dangerous smile that sent a chill down Anna's spine. "You want to see my bag?" Clara said, her voice low. "Fine." She walked over to the counter and grabbed her purse, but instead of handing it to Michael, she pulled out a small knife. "Stay back," she hissed, her eyes wild. Michael stepped in front of Anna, his hands raised. "Clara, put the knife down. We can talk about this." "There's nothing to talk about," Clara snapped. "You were supposed to trust me. Everything was going perfectly until she ruined it." Anna's heart was racing as she clutched her phone, still recording. She knew she had to do something, but she was terrified. Clara looked like a cornered animal, ready to strike. Before anyone could move, there was a loud knock at the door. Clara's head whipped around, her grip on the knife faltering. Anna's heart leapt with relief. Lily had called the police, just as they had planned. "Clara Johnson," a voice called from outside. "This is the police. Drop the weapon and come out with your hands up." Clara's face twisted in rage. She looked at Michael, then at Anna, before letting out a bitter laugh. "You think you've won?" she said, her voice dripping with venom. "This isn't over." But it was. Clara dropped the knife and raised her hands as the police entered the cabin. They quickly restrained her, reading her rights as they led her outside. Anna felt a wave of relief wash over her, but she couldn't stop shaking. Michael turned to Anna, his face a mixture of shock and guilt. Anna, I'm so sorry. I should have listened to you. Anna nodded, tears streaming down her face. I just didn't want to lose you, Dad. As they hugged, Anna knew the nightmare was finally over. Clara's plan had failed, and her father was safe, but the scars of what had happened would take time to heal. For now, though, Anna was just grateful that they had made it out alive. The tension in the air was palpable as the family sat down for dinner at the cozy dining table in the lakeside cabin. The warm glow of the chandelier above them cast soft shadows on the walls, but to Anna, the room felt cold and suffocating. She had spent the entire day preparing for this moment, her heart pounding with a mix of fear and determination. Tonight, she would expose Clara for who she truly was, and she would do it in front of her father. Clara, as always, was the picture of charm and grace. She had prepared an elaborate meal, complete with a bottle of wine for her and Michael. She smiled warmly as she served the dishes, her every movement calculated and precise. To anyone else, she would have seemed like the perfect partner, but Anna knew better. She had seen the darkness behind Clara's mask, and tonight, she was going to make sure her father saw it too. Everything looks amazing, Clara, Michael said, his voice full of admiration as he raised his glass. You've really outdone yourself. Clara beamed, her eyes flickering briefly to Anna. Thank you, Michael. I just wanted to make this evening special for us. A fresh start, you know? Anna clenched her fists under the table, her phone hidden in her lap. She had spent the past few days gathering every piece of evidence she could find. Photos of the fake documents, screenshots of Clara's suspicious financial dealings, and most importantly, a recording of Clara's incriminating phone call with her accomplice. She had secretly called the police earlier that day, explaining everything and sharing the evidence. They had promised to send officers to the cabin, but Anna knew it was up to her to confront Clara and stall for time. As the meal progressed, Anna could feel her father's happiness radiating across the table. He was completely unaware of the storm brewing beneath the surface. Clara, too, seemed relaxed, confident that her plan was still on track, but Anna wasn't going to let her get away with it. Dad, Anna said suddenly, her voice cutting through the light chatter. Both Michael and Clara turned to look at her, surprised by her serious tone. There's something I need to tell you. Something important. Michael frowned, setting down his fork. What is it, sweetheart? Anna took a deep breath, her hands trembling slightly. It's about Clara. She's not who you think she is. Clara's smile faltered for a split second, before she quickly recovered, her expression soft and concerned. Anna, we've talked about this. I know it's been hard for you to accept me, but no, Anna interrupted, her voice firm. This isn't about me not accepting you. This is about the truth. Michael looked confused, glancing between Anna and Clara. Anna, what are you talking about? Anna reached into her pocket and pulled out her phone. I've been keeping track of everything, Dad. I've been watching Clara, and I've found proof that she's been lying to you. Clara's eyes narrowed, but she kept her voice calm. Anna, I don't know what you think you've found, but this is getting out of hand. Anna ignored her, unlocking her phone and opening the folder of evidence. She placed it on the table in front of her father, scrolling through the photos. Look at this, Dad. These are fake documents Clara made, like the life insurance policy she convinced you to sign, with her as the sole beneficiary. And these, she pointed to the marriage certificates and obituaries, are records of her previous marriages. All of her husbands were wealthy and they all died under suspicious circumstances. Michael's face paled as he stared at the screen. Clara, what is this? Clara let out a nervous laugh, shaking her head. Michael, this is ridiculous. She's just a child. She doesn't understand what she's looking at. I understand perfectly, Anna shot back, her voice rising. You've been lying to my dad from the start. You don't love him. You're just after his money. Clara's expression hardened, her mask of sweetness slipping. Michael, you can't seriously believe this. She's been trying to sabotage us from the beginning. She's jealous and she's making up stories to drive us apart. Michael looked at Anna, his eyes filled with confusion and doubt. Anna, is this true? Are you making this up? Anna felt a pang of hurt at his words, but she pushed it aside. No, Dad, I'm not making this up. I have more proof. She opened the audio recording on her phone and pressed play. The room filled with Clara's voice, cold and calculating, as she spoke to her accomplice about their plan. It's all going according to plan, Clara's voice said. He trusts me completely. The wedding is just a formality. Once it's done, we'll have access to everything. Michael's face twisted in shock as the recording continued. Clara's voice detailed the life insurance policy, the inheritance, and her plans to get rid of Anna if she became too much of a problem. When the recording ended, the room was silent. "Clara," Michael said, his voice trembling, "is this true? Did you plan all of this?" Clara's calm facade shattered. Her eyes blazed with anger as she stood up, her chair scraping loudly against the floor. "You stupid little brat," she hissed, glaring at Anna. "You just couldn't leave well enough alone, could you?" Michael stood as well, his face a mixture of anger and betrayal. "Clara, answer me, is this true?" Clara didn't respond. Instead, she grabbed her purse and started toward the door. "I don't have to explain myself to you," she snapped. "You're all pathetic." But before she could leave, there was a loud knock at the door. Clara froze, her eyes darting toward the sound. Anna's heart leapt with relief. She knew it was the police. "Clara Johnson," a voice called from outside. "This is the police. Open the door and come out with your hands up." Clara's face twisted in panic. She turned to Michael, her voice desperate. "Michael, please, you have to believe me. This is all a misunderstanding." But Michael stepped back, his expression cold. "I trusted you," he said quietly, "and you lied to me." The door burst open and two officers entered the cabin. Clara tried to make a run for it, but they quickly restrained her, placing her in handcuffs. "You can't do this," she screamed, struggling against their grip. "You have no proof." "We have plenty of proof," one of the officers said, holding up a folder. "Thanks to Anna." As the officers led Clara out of the cabin, Anna felt a wave of relief wash over her. It was over. Clara's lies had been exposed, and her father was safe. Michael sank into his chair, his head in his hands. "Anna," he said softly, his voice filled with guilt. "I'm so sorry. I should have listened to you." Anna sat down beside him, placing a hand on his arm. "It's okay, Dad. I just didn't want to lose you." They sat in silence for a moment, the weight of everything that had happened settling over them. But for the first time in weeks, Anna felt a sense of peace. The truth had come out, and Clara was gone. Now, she and her father could finally begin to heal. The courtroom was silent as the judge read the verdict. Clara sat at the defendant's table, her once perfect composure shattered. Her hair was disheveled, her face pale, and her eyes darted nervously around the room. She had spent weeks denying the charges, claiming that Anna had fabricated everything, but the evidence was overwhelming. The fake documents, the recording of her phone call, and the testimonies of her accomplice, who had been arrested shortly after her, painted a clear picture of her crimes. "Clara Johnson," the judge said, his voice firm and steady, "you have been found guilty of fraud, attempted murder, and conspiracy to commit murder. You are hereby sentenced to 25 years in prison without the possibility of parole." The gavel struck, and the sound echoed through the room. Clara's face twisted in rage as she stood up, shouting at the judge, "This is a mistake! I'm innocent! That little brat set me up!" Her voice was shrill, desperate, but no one in the room believed her anymore. The officers quickly restrained her and began escorting her out of the courtroom. As she passed Anna and Michael, she glared at them, her eyes filled with hatred. "You'll regret this," she hissed, but her words carried no weight. She was finished, and everyone knew it. Anna sat beside her father, her hands clasped tightly in her lap. She felt a strange mix of emotions, relief that Clara was finally out of their lives, but also a lingering sadness for her father, who had been so deeply hurt by the betrayal. She glanced at him, wondering what he was thinking. Michael's face was solemn, his eyes fixed on the floor. He hadn't said much since the trial began, but Anna could see the guilt and regret etched into his features. As the courtroom emptied, Michael turned to Anna, his voice soft and heavy. "Anna," he said, his eyes glistening with unshed tears, "I don't even know where to begin. I'm so sorry. I should have listened to you from the start. I let her come between us, and I almost lost you because of it." Anna looked at her father, her heart aching at the pain in his voice. "Dad," she said gently, "it's okay. You didn't know. She fooled everyone, not just you." Michael shook his head, his voice breaking. "But I should have trusted you. You're my daughter, and I let her make me doubt you. I'll never forgive myself for that." Anna reached out and took his hand, squeezing it tightly. "I forgive you, Dad. What matters is that we're okay now. We stopped her, and we're safe. That's all that matters." Michael pulled her into a hug, holding her tightly as if he was afraid to let go. "I promise you, Anna," he said, his voice trembling, "I'll never let anyone come between us again. You're the most important person in my life, and I'll do whatever it takes to make it up to you." Anna hugged him back, tears streaming down her face. For the first time in months, she felt like she had her father back. The man who had always been her rock, her protector, was finally seeing her for who she was, a brave, determined girl who had fought to save him, even when he didn't believe her. In the weeks that followed, life slowly began to return to normal. The house, which had once felt tense and suffocating, was now filled with a sense of peace. Michael and Anna spent more time together, rebuilding the bond that had been strained during Clara's time in their lives. They went on long walks, cooked meals together, and even started a small garden in the backyard, something Anna's mother had always wanted to do before she passed away. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset, Michael turned to Anna with a thoughtful expression. "You know," he said, "I've been thinking a lot about everything that happened, about how easily I let someone like Clara into our lives." Anna looked at him, waiting for him to continue. "I think I was so desperate to fill the void your mom left behind that I ignored all the warning signs," he admitted. "I wanted to believe that Clara was the answer, that she could make us a family again. But I see now that I was wrong. I didn't need someone else to make us a family. We already had that, you and me." Anna smiled, her heart swelling with warmth. "We're enough, Dad. We always have been." Michael nodded, a small smile tugging at his lips. "You're right. And from now on, I'm going to focus on what really matters, us. No more letting anyone come between us. No more distractions, just you and me, living a simple, peaceful life." Anna leaned her head against his shoulder, feeling a sense of contentment she hadn't felt in a long time. "That sounds perfect." As the months passed, the memory of Clara began to fade. Michael and Anna found joy in the little things, movie nights, baking cookies, and even tackling home improvement projects together. They talked openly about their feelings, something they hadn't done much of before, and their relationship grew stronger because of it. Anna also found herself growing more confident. The experience with Clara had been terrifying, but it had also shown her how strong and resourceful she could be. She had stood up for what she believed in, even when no one else believed her, and she had saved her father's life because of it. That knowledge gave her a sense of empowerment that she carried with her into every aspect of her life. One day, as they were working in the garden, Michael paused and looked at Anna with a proud smile. "You know," he said, "you're the bravest person I've ever met." Anna blushed, brushing dirt off her hands. "I don't know about that." "I do," Michael said firmly. "You stood up to Clara when I couldn't see the truth. You risked everything to protect me. That takes courage, Anna, and I'll never forget it." Anna smiled, her cheeks flushing with pride. "Thanks, Dad, but I couldn't have done it without you. You've always taught me to stand up for what's right." Michael chuckled, shaking his head. "I think you've taught me more than I've taught you." They laughed together, the sound carrying through the warm summer air. For the first time in a long time, everything felt right. The shadows of the past had finally lifted, and they were free to move forward, stronger and closer than ever. Years later, when Anna looked back on that time in her life, she would remember it as a turning point. It had been a painful, harrowing experience, but it had also brought her and her father closer together. They had learned to trust each other, to communicate, and to cherish the bond they shared. And in the end, that was what mattered most. As for Clara, she remained behind bars, her schemes and lies finally catching up to her. Anna and Michael never spoke of her again, choosing instead to focus on the life they were building together, a life filled with love, trust, and the unshakable bond of family.